Welcome to our Lunchtime Live program, a partnership the third Thursday of the month on WJEJ with Washington County Public Schools. This is Will Kaufman from the Public Information Office, welcoming special guests today, Jona French, our Supervisor of Library Media, Matt Wagner is the Principal at Boonesboro Elementary School. We're going to talk about the Summer Learning Program. It's not summer school. We continue to do that extra language just to make sure that you can differentiate between the two. We have a lot to talk about that. Welcome to the two of you. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
But what I want to do is just talk about summer for the both of you. Aside from this specific program, tell us about summer at the Boonesboro campus, at Boonesboro Elementary School.
It's kind of interesting. A lot of people are unsure about what principals do. They think that we take a summer break or that there's not a lot of work to do over the summer. Summer's a time where we start looking at plans for instructional purposes. We're ordering materials like, nonstop to make sure our students have what they need on day one. This year, we have the pleasure of getting an HVAC upgrade at Boonesboro Elementary. So I have been housed, luckily, at Boonesboro Middle School. So that creates a brand new challenge, but it's also going to help, once we get that upgrade taken care of the first phase, it will help our kids to have a very comfortable learning environment and our staff as well.
And you were saying two phases of this too, so
yes.
It's not just us this summer.
Yeah, all the teachers and the custodial staff have already worked hard to make sure that the school was packed up and that the school will be ready for students come day one in September. As you came out of the previous school year, what about that year gives you pause to either rethink things or to double down on things that really did go well? How does your thought process work once you finish up a school year, and what does that mean then for the start of the next school year? Well, you take a deep breath and you just...
Other than that,
yes. And you start to miss the kids, and then you start really looking at your data that starts to really become available. You have snapshots all year long, and you're taking the pulse of where certain teachers are, certain grade levels are, and groups of students. And then at the end of the year, everything comes together, and you have this big collection, and you start saying to yourself, okay, this went really well. How can we grow that? Or then we say to ourselves, wow, I say to myself, wow, I did a poor job myself as a leader in this area. How can I do better to move the building forward and myself forward? What do I need to learn? What do I need to read? What messages do I need to send to groups of people and to students, maybe through social media or to promote our summer learning program? Right. So there's a lot of things that we need to do to grow. We're very fortunate at our school. We have very, very good parental support. The PTA is great. We have a great staff, a great community that's even celebrating their 225th anniversary as a town. Right. So we've got a lot of people coming together right now. It's just moving forward and always continually growing.
We're going to do your quick self-job evaluation right here on the air. How would you? What are the challenges when you came out of the previous school year? After that deep breath, what is it that what are the challenges for you as the building administrator, as the leader of Boonesboro Elementary School? What do you need to do better? What do you think? Where are the areas where you find some challenges in leading that building?
Well, you have to look at what you do on a daily basis, and you have a list of things that you mentally prepare for in my 35-minute drive to work every day.
Right.
You start thinking, okay, the focus should always be children and kids, and sometimes there are things that make you lose sight of why you're there to lead. A parent comes in, or you have something go wrong with an iPad, or there's an issue with a dismissal procedure. So there's a lot of things that can trip you up. But it's eliminating barriers, it's eliminating excuses, and trying to grow from that, and prioritizing student and staff at all times.
Jona, what's on your checklist for the summer? This summer learning program has been an incredible team approach to get this up and running and continue to execute it. But aside from this, what does your summer look like?
Well, I'd have to say a lot of the same things as Matt talked about. Regrouping, getting ready for the next school year. If there were retirements or people who left positions, filling positions, we had that happen at Matt's school. So getting the correct staff in locations to make sure that the positions are filled, purchasing resources, renewing resources and materials and things that we need for the Library Media Center to support the students' pleasure reading needs, to also support their curriculum and instruction, the curriculum and instruction part of the program, the materials that teachers need. Looking at facilities, actually, because of the HVAC upgrade at Matt's school, we're also doing a library facility upgrade. We're getting new carpet in there and some other things. Since the building was already torn up, we just decided to make it even that much more torn up.
Yeah, I love it. Yes,
Exactly.
thank you.
Why
by
not
the way.
pile on?
Yes.
So we do a lot of facility upgrades over the summer. I have a couple schools that we're replacing bookshelves or painting or carpeting or things like that. So a lot of it is it gives us a block of time during the summer months to get those big projects that really can't be done during the school year done over the summer. So it's kind of juggling a lot of those kinds of things.
Right. Now, I mean, it's one specific focus for you, but it's times 40-something.
Right.
It's Boonesboro Elementary times 40-something.
Right.
As you know, as you look across the entire county, is it a quieter summer, not a quieter summer in some regards? Is your checklist manageable?
It's about the same, I think, as any other summer. It just happens to be a little bit longer. So it does actually give us a little bit extra chunk of time to maybe get some of those bigger projects done. Like at E. Russell Hicks, we're doing some facility upgrade there. The furniture is not actually going to come in until August 15th. So in a normal year, that would have been a really problematic date because school was going to start the following week or shortly after that. This year, because of the later start, we're actually able to get that done and ready to go. So pretty typical summer, about the same number of retirements and positions I need to fill. So I wouldn't say it's any different other than we've had a couple extra projects in there in terms of the iPad, the summer learning program, and the rail program we did with the public library and things like that. But it's not really that much different for me. So
You're not filling librarian positions either, are you? We don't have librarians anymore.
we don't technically
Do we
call
actually have
them.
libraries anymore? No, seriously, because
Absolutely.
I hear it referred to as a media center
Right.
way more often than not.
Right. We call our positions school library media specialists or media specialists because they don't just do books. They do all kinds of media. So it's online resources, ebooks, audio materials, you name it, we do a little bit of everything.
Right.
And that's one of our bigger challenges, I think, is that misconception of do we need libraries anymore? Do we need print books anymore? We fight a little bit of that culture where people think we can do away with libraries. And I do think at this point, the position's as important as ever. It's just that we've had to adjust and we don't do things in the way we always have. So for our department, it's been trying to figure out what keeps us relevant, what's keeping us so that we're fulfilling the needs of the students and the teachers, and how can we do our job, just do it different and more appropriate to the times that we live in now.
Has it been a slow shift away from physical books? Not that we're away from physical books, but is it weighted dramatically different than it was before, or has it been slower?
It's probably weighted a little bit more on the digital side than what it had been for the last few years. And a lot of it wasn't because we didn't want to move that direction or that it wasn't the appropriate way to go. It's that anybody who follows the book industry knows that the book industry itself was behind the curve in terms of figuring out how do we make digital resources, how do we make these books available to kids and to people in a digital format. For instance, there's lots of different licensing ways that you can purchase a book. I can purchase a book for myself, and then I own that copy, and I can use it, but nobody else can. Well, there's also like the books we purchased for the summer learning program, where you buy the book and it's available to any child in that school at the same time if they all wanted to be in it. So the book piece, in terms of the publishers and adopting the digital format and the way of making it accessible to people more easily, was what kind of held us back from making that shift a little quicker. And it's still not clean. It's all over the place depending on the publisher, the type of book, all of those things. So that is still a challenge for us, but we just continue to work through it. But we have made a pretty huge shift from just having print materials. We've always had, for the last 10 or 15 years, online sources of information, databases, things like that. The e-books have really just come on probably for us in the last 3 or 4 years, with the bigger push being this last year. And we've just started adopting digital magazines. So we're making that shift as it's appropriate and financially reasonable.
Right. This is Lunchtime Live on WJEJ, a partnership with the Washington County Public School System, the third Thursday of the month at this time. Jona French is supervisor of library media for the school system. Matt Wagner is principal at Boonesboro Elementary School. And let me shift now to what we're calling the Summer Learning Program. Jona, do you want to give us the broad brush of what that is? Give us the quick opening description of the program.
Several months ago, the system leadership came to a team of us and said we'd like to explore some ways to continue students engaging with reading materials of different kinds, and also ways that we can continue to support curriculum and content-specific learning, and also incorporate the use of the iPad. So we really started to look at ways we could pull those three things together, and what made sense in terms of how to access it. So we have made available to parents and students. The iPads can be taken home through the schools, and I know Matt's going to talk a little bit about what happened at his school. And then the background piece of that is on each of the iPads there's an icon on the home screen that will take them to basically a personalized library of ebooks, and they're interactive ebooks that students can either read themselves, they can have them read to them, there's sound effects, there's all kinds of ways they can engage with that literature.
Very entertaining.
Sometimes
Yeah.
a little too entertaining.
I'm a little sorry in some respects. This is only for the kids.
It could be for you too, Will.
This could be. What are you saying, man?
Reading is for everybody.
Okay, Jona, please continue.
And then we also have other resources. We've made sure that the kids know how to get to the public library. There's a link to the public library so that they can sign out materials, either the digital or the print materials, through the public library. They can get different apps that are content specific. There were some math practice apps made available, some science specific ones. So we really tried to package everything so that it was accessible to every student, as customized as we could get it for every student, and just try to continue to encourage that learning over the summer, so that when the school year ended, and it being a longer summer this time around, we wanted to make sure that students were still engaged and active minds, and trying to keep retaining some of that they've learned over the school year.
That setup sounds extensive. That's a lot of resources to pull together. I guess decisions on what we're putting up, what we're not.
Yeah, it was a team effort. Technology obviously had to have a big part in that, in terms of making sure the iPads were ready to go, and how they were going to control certain aspects of that over the summer, making sure that we could get the icons on the home screens for the resources we wanted them to go to. Curriculum folks had to go through and evaluate apps and choose what they thought were the most appropriate for the kids. In terms of the English department and the library department, we worked together a lot to determine what kinds of materials we wanted to purchase and make accessible to the kids, and make sure that they were engaging and appropriate for kids, and leveled them a little bit so that we were kind of targeting, whatever Matt's reading level was.
Right.
We can make sure that we point him to the resources that are best suited to his reading level.
There's no requirement, though. I mean, we're simply hopeful, with some guidance and some urging, for kids and families to be involved in this program over the course of the summer. I mean, you can't say to your school population, listen, I need you to accomplish these things over the course of the summer. I mean, it's not about that.
No, it's about creating an awareness of what's available, and also being available at times to educate a parent, or to field a phone call or an email. For instance, today a parent came in, was having some trouble with logging on some things, and we got to sit down with her daughter, and the three of us troubleshot those things together, and you get to see the different levels based on Lexile that you can see on report cards. You could see that there are many great functions, and you talk about an app called Flipster. Flipster is an app where students can look at magazines, the full text of a magazine right from their home. This is anytime learning, Will. This is what makes it really powerful. The other thing that I found really neat is I'm on reviewing some things on a Google application that's made available to parents through the WCPS website that kind of gives them a tutorial. And you can see real people logged on, so you know people are using this, using these resources, which should make you happy.
Right. There has to be some satisfaction in engaging that many more kids. I mean, that example you gave has to be times however many across the county, across the school system, over the course of the summer, when typically the number wouldn't be this big. I mean, it really is. It's a challenge, particularly in a long summer, as we all know this is, to keep kids. I mean, we can send them out the door on the last day of school and say, okay, gang, keep reading all summer. Go, find some educational resources. Go to the library. Come back and see us. Call me. I have some ideas for you. I mean, that's just, it's not likely to happen unless there's an organized set of opportunities and resource for them like this.
And it's there. We have nonfiction texts. We have fictional texts. You're talking about middle school and high school. That high schooler could pick this up, pick up their iPad, and open up texts that would be very engaging to them, like high interest texts. We have high interest, low readability texts for students who might have difficulty with reading. When you're talking about 16 weeks of summer, that would be like an athlete not exercising for 16 weeks.
Right.
They're going to lose something. They're going to lose that competitive edge. So we want to make sure that we are able to provide those kind of resources for kids. Science vocabulary, social studies vocabulary, mathematics, all those things and all those experiences, building background knowledge. So when a teacher says something, they can say, "Oh, I read a book about the megalodon that's available for a kindergarten and first grade student," and they can build that background knowledge. And then you're talking about communication, and just from there it just begins to flourish. A kid gets excited about learning.
Let me include summer school in the discussion then. Summer school is an organized, from a curriculum standpoint, from a timing standpoint, it's the traditional school setting. Are there any components of that for families who may want the experience in this summer learning program to be maybe a little more regimented, maybe a little more disciplined, maybe a little more structured? If somebody came to you and said, Mr. Wagner, my son or daughter could use this in these couple of months, is it possible to do that? To set a family up to be able to do that?
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
There's a pamphlet actually that talks about that. Ways to be successful with summer reading. If you click on it, it's part of the parent website. It's a one-page thing. We could feast. We're not going to ever go starve for information. That's great, based about reading and things. But this one-page shot will tell you exactly what you can do to make it fun. It's called Make Summer Reading Success. You click on it. It's a one-page thing. It's really about just having the child read. It's about having those discussions with kids. And I know it seems like a simple process, and people are like, "Oh, you went to college and you learned about reading, Matt, and this is all you can tell me?"
Right.
Reading will take kids, genuine reading about things will take kids so much farther than a worksheet activity that has no meaning, or writing about something that you don't care about.
Right.
We don't do that as adults, unless we're required to do so for other reasons. So that's the thing. Summer school, it's a brick and mortar kind of deal. Mm-hmm. Eventually, that could evolve into some distance learning, and I know there's some blended learning going on right now at the middle and high school level. Mm-hmm. Some students need that kind of structure. Parents, the big thing is shifting the mindset of parents. Sometimes, when changes are made, it's different. It's uncomfortable. Well, I want to be able to see the book that my child is reading. Now we have a library in our hands that's being updated. You figure, I go to the National Geographic website, our kids' website for kids, that's being updated all the time.
Right.
It's never going to get stale. A good book is a great book, but when you talk about an iPad, that's continually being updated by a group of educators, and it's just phenomenal.
Is this a work in progress over the course of the summer? Just once we've set things up, we're not sitting back and watching just what we've set up. I assume if any of us have the inspiration, hey, why don't we add this to the summer learning program, whatever that might be? Are we adding deleting? Is it a work in progress in the summer?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, yesterday I went in and we had a little technical issue with Flipster and one of the magazines not being accessible. So I spent some time yesterday updating every school's additional resources list to add Discovery Girls magazine to all of the elementary schools. So yeah,
good.
I mean, I've been in it regularly checking the links and adding materials, making sure the username and password information is correct. Actually, as soon as everything goes through for a new purchase that we made here in conjunction with the science department's ready, I'm going to update those lists with that. And the idea is, too, that these lists aren't going to just exist for this summer. I mean, they'll obviously exist through the school year. I've heard a lot of teachers say that they're excited about having that leveled library accessible to them throughout the school year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask
Yes.
you. If this, if the thread of this activity for these couple of months will just be carried right into the school year.
Yes, and we're planning on tweaking it a little bit next year. We have a couple ideas for upping the game a little bit next year.
Great.
We'll continue to add resources and materials. As a department, we're going to continue to look at the type of book, the capstone interactive books that we've been purchasing. The libraries will continue to look at adding those in. So we'll continue to grow those lists. Additional resources we purchase will populate in those lists. And next year we're looking to maybe make it a little competition. Maybe put some.
What does that mean? A little competition?
Well, to have some contests in terms of reading contests, and track students' amount of time that they read or whatever, and do some.
Yeah, reward them with books. That's the way I look at it. Everything that I've been reading
Yeah.
recently, you want to reward kids with even more resources.
Right.
Yeah. It's great to get a trinket. Yeah, that's great. It's great to get a trophy, but it's even more rewarding to be given something that you can even learn more from, something that you're interested in. Hey, have a shopping spree on Scholastic, or here's another app that I will purchase for you personally to put on maybe another device you have at home,
Right.
or for the classroom.
When you said earlier, give me a little more information about how the resources are tailored to specific kids. How does one student get a set of resources compared to the next student?
Well, there's two ways that we looked at this. For the book portion, based on student assessment scores, their reading level at the end of the year is what was, and the technology had to do a lot of manipulation in the background to say, okay, Matt's test score said he's reading at this specific Lexile level. We need him to be pointed to this specific book list of materials where that reading level resides. So there was a lot of that really specific manipulation that had to occur. So the books are catered by reading level. There's a window of, and I can't remember.
Yeah,
beginning reader to 420
there's a range. But the nice thing is that with that range, you're gonna be challenged. Some of the students could be challenged with those texts because it's a little bit more than just a number. Well, we can say that this kid reads at this level, but they might be able to navigate a nonfiction text better than a fictional text. So yeah, you're right. It goes it's BR to 420
and 420
and then you have these large ranges.
What does that mean?
Oh, good question. Yeah, we speak in all these lingos. And
I know.
What's a BR?
There's
Yeah,
no
what are you
way
talking
we're
about?
there's no way we're letting you get away with a reference to BR to 420.
Yeah, these are Lexile ranges, and it's easy to look these things up. A BR is a beginning reader.
Okay.
As somebody who can navigate a text and understand the concepts of print, but they might not be able to fluently read.
Right.
They might not have a very good phonological awareness, those kind of things, to be able to take a word and break it apart and make meaning of the text. They might not understand the print features of a text, but they might understand about dinosaurs. So you might have a book that might be well above their level that can be read to them. Right. You hit the audio button, and that's where the magic begins. It's just like having a read aloud. A parent might not have the chance to do something because they're taking a kid to the ball field or they're on vacation. Well, you can have that iPad right there.
Right.
Plug the headphones in, and you have an automatic book read to you, and that's phenomenal.
Now,
It's like books on tape, but better.
While we are targeting, we want a specific child to read within their Lexile level. They can still access all of the other lists. So if they want to challenge themselves even more, they can go to the next level. They're not limited to just those, but we're suggesting they start with that specific book list.
Is there any way for us to keep score by the end of the summer? since it's really an elective process at home or at the beach or wherever it might be, we can generally say, boy, we're looking good the first part of this school year. Looks like the summer may have had some positive impact, but there's no way to measure, right?
I can measure usage, so
Okay.
I will be able to see how many times books have been accessed or how many
okay.
times the magazines have been
Right.
accessed. So in library language, we call those usage statistics, so we can see how many times those materials are touched. We can't tell necessarily how long, like I can't tell that Matt was in a book for 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Sure.
3 days, but I can see at least that somebody opened it, and we're hoping we can get down to the point where we can see specifically maybe who, or at least what school accessed the materials.
Yeah, the big thing is growth, Will. We want people to learn. We want people to grow. And will we be able to directly correlate the 80-some students that my team worked hard to get in? My lead teacher and assistant principal, they worked very hard to get those people to come in. We had a lot of word of mouth. Are we going to be able to track those 80 students? It'd be neat to see. It'd be nice to be able to have conversations with those individual kids when they got back, or the teacher. When they're getting off the bus, first week of school. Hey, tell me a little bit about one of your favorite books that you read.
From the summer, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Conversation. That's just like a reading conference right there, and that's what we promote. We talk about books. We write about books. We read books.
We put out encouraging words and promotional things from our angle at the school system level from public information. I assume you did. And I'm respectfully going to say this, sort of a sales job, a marketing job on getting, your kids and families involved in the program.
Educators are really in sales. Mm-hmm. You have to be dynamic, because you figure you're competing. You have 6-7 hours of school days, and you're not a video game. You're not an actress or an actor. You're not doing laser shows and all kinds of crazy stuff. But you have to be very creative, and yeah, you are in sales. You have to have a very good team around you to be able to promote things, and also know your audience. One school might have a completely different tactic or way to reach parents than my school. So you do have to be in sales. You have to make them want to learn.
I think we'll all have an advantage going into the summer of 18, because we'll have that period from late winter into the spring to build momentum and awareness and all of that into next summer for this program. I think that'll make a difference too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was a lot of, as you had said before, it was a lot of moving pieces. There was the technology piece, then there was we've got to pick the resources piece, and then there was how do we organize all of the stuff to make it accessible, make sure that students could get logged in with their Google accounts to be able to access the book lists, and how do we, and all of those moving pieces. So it did push us a little bit to get us to where we wanted to be by June. But the nice thing is, like you said, we're not letting it sit over the summer. Right. If we see things that can be added, should be removed, tweaked, we can do that. We have the ability to be able to do that. So it's not just a static process, or it's going to be very dynamic, and it'll change.
Before we run out of time, let me go back to the beginning. How did the kids families just reported to school to get the iPad?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's as simple as that.
There were three days set up at each individual school, and my lead teacher and also the assistant principal at my school were available, and were even available to troubleshoot those kind of things. It was phenomenal with the response. That word of mouth sometimes is just a great thing. You have a good experience somewhere, of course you're going to tell somebody about it. You have a bad experience, you're going to tell somebody too. But we wanted to have a good experience where people could look at a product. Our team was very knowledgeable about the applications and the things that were available. And we know our students, too. The teachers, it would have been nice to have been able to do this before even school got out, because the teachers know exactly where the interest levels are. They could have really done what we call a book sell. If you're in the reading business, a book talk, hey, this is really neat. And it's 4 or 5 minutes. It's just enough to make you say, wow, I'd really like to have that iPad for the summer.
Right. John, a final word before we wrap up for today. Give your slightly past mid-July assessment of how we've done so far.
Well, I haven't heard anything bad.
Right.
So that's always a gauge.
There's no nightmare that we're hiding.
No, absolutely not. I really think the information that we put together. Matt referenced some pamphlets and some things that are accessible through the iParent portal on the website that have been really, I think, helpful in terms of parents understanding what the iPad has on it, how to utilize those things, some suggestions for how to make summer reading successful as a parent and a child reading together. So, no, I mean, I have not heard anything bad. Like I said, I had a little hiccup with a magazine, but it was a single magazine, and we still had 5 or 6 of them out there. So I have not heard any issues with accessing, any connectivity issues, any app issues. Not at my level, and I don't know if the individual schools are hearing anything like that or experiencing it, but no, I mean, honestly, it's been pretty, knock on wood.
In case you didn't hear or see that, that was a knock on wood moment.
It's been pretty quiet, for me at least, so I'd have to defer to others.
And that means good things. Yeah, you bet. Well, we're out of time. I thank you two very much.
Very
Matt
welcome.
Wagner
Thank you.
Is principal at Boonesboro Elementary School, and Jona French, supervisor of library media for Washington County Public Schools. You can hear Lunchtime live the third Thursday of the month at this time, a partnership between Washington County Public Schools and WJEJ.